Jeremy Sochan plans to sign with the New York Knicks. By signing Kobe Bufkin early, did the Lakers lose out on him and other potential players that might have helped more? That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on weekends, even on holidays, and now more than even once a day. No matter how you're getting this show, whether it's Apple, Spotify, maybe you're one of the 37,000 plus subscribers to Locked On Lakers on YouTube. No matter how you're doing it, you are helping make Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in this or any other known universe. Brian Kamenetsky with Andy Kamenetsky, nearly 20 years covering the Lakers for ESPN, for the LA Times, for The Athletic. Jeremy Sochan was a name that popped up on Wednesday as the San Antonio Spurs said they were going to let him go. Couldn't trade him at the deadline. He is a fourth-year player who has totally, as you would guess, fallen out of their rotation. And rather than wait to move him or let him go in the offseason, they let him go now. There are a lot of people around Lakerland who were trying to figure out ways for the Lakers to go get him, even though they just used that 15th roster spot to sign Kobe Bufkin. And the mechanics of getting Sochan after that, while not impossible, got a lot trickier. Well, kind of a moot point. On Thursday, it was reported by Shams of ESPN fame that once he clears waivers, it is expected that Sochan will sign with the Knicks. So this is a player that has come and gone. Sochan reportedly had interest from 10-ish teams, none of which were presumably the Lakers because they didn't have a roster spot for him. So the question is, did the Lakers miss out on an opportunity to do better? Will they continue to miss out on opportunities to do better with that 15th roster spot because they chose very quickly to get in the Kobe Bufkin business last weekend?
Yeah, I think there are two pieces of this that are interesting. First is the question of whether or not Buffkin is worthy of that spot in the first place, like separate from who might have been a better choice.
Just
like
in a vacuum, is he worth the 15th spot?
Right. And JJ Redick, in talking about the signing of Kobe Bufkin, noted that most buyout guys, at least for teams with trying to go on a deep playoff run, generally do not make much of an impact, which is true. There are exceptions to the rule. Boris Diaw with the Spurs several years ago, Markieff Morris for the 2020 Lakers made an impact in the playoffs. But for the most part, they do not make the impact that I think the franchise or fans are hoping for. He also heavily intimated that Kobe Bufkin was somebody that they're thinking about for the future as much as or more than the present and this playoff run. He is signed for a team option for next year. They like what he's done in the G League. He had been tearing it up. The Lakers are a team that legitimately needs more access to young, cost-controlled players. And it was intimated, and I would like to believe they had it on pretty good authority, that if they did not act now, Kobe Bufkin was going to get snatched up by another team. So there is the question of just, is Buffkin a good choice? But then there's also the question of opportunity cost, whether you're talking about someone like Sochan or anybody else that is currently available or might end up available on the buyout market. What I find interesting about that, though, is you always have to think about what is in it for the player that's we're talking about. Like, for example, Cam Thomas, who is now with the Bucks, is somebody that the minute he was waived,
put up 35 on
something
Wednesday,
like that. Something like that. And the minute he became available, we saw a ton of Laker fans and even some Laker media wondering whether or not the Lakers could end up with Cam Thomas. And I said this on the show, I said it online before he was even with the Bucks. I did not think there was a shot in hell that Cam Thomas would even want to sign with the Lakers, because the opportunity for him to showcase himself as somebody who bet on himself taking a qualifying offer with the Nets, and it thus far has not played out the way he wanted it at all, the opportunity would not be there with the Lakers and this rotation. Case in point, his debut with the Bucks, he took 20 shots in that game. That's more than Austin and LeBron get. That's barely below what Luka averages. Like, that type of opportunity is there in Milwaukee, not there with the Lakers. So you have to, and I'm sure we will after the break, talk about this with Sochan in figuring out whether or not the Lakers messed this up, at least specifically with Sochan, or maybe even broadly thinking about other candidates. You got to think about what could be potentially in this for Sochan with the Lakers. Is the appeal going to be there?
Well, and also too, you can't approach it with the assumption that you get the player. What you are trading is the opportunity to have, to have Buffkin for the opportunity to try and get the player. As we noted, Sochan reportedly had 8, 9, 10 teams that were interested in him. The Lakers would have been, even if they were a strong suitor, not necessarily the clubhouse leader. So we'll break some of these things down and tell you whether or not Rob Pelinka made a mistake. But first, we have to tell you about these things.
Well, that Locked On Lakers is brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season don't have to take over your life this year. TurboTax, making it easier to just hand things off, move on with your day with TurboTax full service. You can have your taxes done for you by a local trusted expert, start to finish, no stress, no guesswork. Don't spend hours trying to figure out forms. You can meet with a local TurboTax expert in person or online. They'll handle everything. They will work to get you every deduction. They will save you time. They will give you peace of mind because they're experts. For a limited time, you can have your taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. And if a TurboTax expert didn't file for you last year, just file by February 28th. Take taxes off your plate. Get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local to book your appointment today.
Locked On Lakers also brought to you by ZocDoc, finding a doctor you actually like and feel like discovering a diamond in the rough. Sure, you want somebody who's in network nearby, has availability, but you also need a doctor who listens, makes you feel comfortable, and can explain things clearly. That doctor does exist, and it's easy to find them on ZocDoc. And it's a free app and a free website that helps you find and book high-quality in-network doctors so you can find someone you love without all the hassle. All the specialties you need, providers across all 50 states, primary care, dentistry, all that good stuff. So stop putting off these doctor's appointments. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA to find and instantly book a doctor that you love today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring this message.
And finally, Locked On Lakers is brought to you by Wayfair. The new year's here, the perfect time to reset your routine and refresh your space. And if you're spending more time at home, you might as well love how everything looks and feels. And that's why you should turn to Wayfair, a one-stop shop for getting your home back on track. Whether you're updating your living room, organizing your space, upgrading your work from home setup, that's big for me. Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find exactly what works for your style and your budget. The shopping's easy, delivery's smooth, and everything arrives exactly as expected. It'll make getting back into a routine this new year feel way more manageable. Get organized, refreshed, back on track this new year for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now. Shop all things home. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home.
I said before the break, like, it is important to frame these things properly. And, we talked about this early in the week, I forget which show, but I do buy the notion that these choices about, these buyout players tend to be, make a lot of, it's good headlines and all that stuff, but in the end aren't usually that consequential. And I think using that spot on a guy, a name that's thrown out a lot as a sort of avatar for somebody who would fit what the Lakers could use, somebody like Haywood Highsmith. Can shoot three a little bit, good defensive motor, pretty decent versatility. He's also been hurt all year, has not played a game this season. And so to use that spot on a guy that you're not entirely sure how they're going to hold up, I think is potentially risky. Would somebody like Chris Middleton be a nice addition?
Nah.
Maybe not. I think you can make an argument for it. He's also not available yet, and he will also be the type of guy who has a lot of competition in terms of teams that would want to pick him up. Should the Wizards decide to buy him out,
to mercifully free him,
I guess. Yeah, I mean, Utah is, Jaren Jackson Jr. is out for the season. Now he has to have a surgery. I think they found like a tumor or something needs to be removed. So it actually sounds. It doesn't sound like threatening, but I glanced across that. It's a knee procedure that it did, if I read it right, have a little more seriousness to it than a typical wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Jaren Jackson Jr. is out for the year. Could they buy out Yusuf Nurkic? Possible. Like there are guys like that around that could pop up even if they're not on the list today. Most of those guys I don't think are necessarily worth making a big deal out of. Sochan, though, was interesting because he actually fits the Kobe Bufkin template in that you're looking at a young player that you theoretically could get kind of an advanced look at to try to get into your system. Sochan has a skill set of defense and rebounding that could be useful for the Lakers, similar to how Buffkin has a scoring, bench scoring skill set, and presumably it's a little bit of defensive capacity and length at 6'4".
I've actually liked his defense more than I liked his offense so far in his minutes with the big club.
His offense hasn't been very good, so if you have to choose. And Sochan compared to Buffkin has had a significantly greater amount of success at the NBA level. And so you'd be doing essentially the same thing with a player that has shown that he can play in the NBA, where Buffkin, and hopefully this changes, certainly rooting for the guy, has not. He just simply has not shown himself to be an NBA caliber player yet. Would I have preferred to take a shot at maybe hopefully getting Sochan and risk losing Buffkin?
Yes.
Yeah, probably.
I would say yes.
I think so. That one
I'm giving an unqualified yes on that. I think a perfect utopian world where they are both truly an option, yes, I'd rather have Jeremy Sochan.
I think, maybe they had some advanced understanding based on trade deadline stuff who is interested in Sochan and where he might end up. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. At the time that they signed Buffkin, the talk, at least publicly, was that Sochan was actually going to stay in San Antonio. That is, but for your average 6-year veteran who's kind of a street free agent right now, I think this is an easy thing to get in on Pelinka for going so fast. There could very well be 2 or 3 other names that pop up on this buyout market, where it's like, I'd rather have that guy too. And again, maybe the Lakers could make it happen, but the mechanics get more difficult. Pelinka, they moved quickly, they moved aggressively. And I think, as you pointed out in the now scrapped version of this mini show, the important thing now is Kobe Bufkin turns out to be a pretty decent player.
Yeah, it's like a lot of things moving forward with Rob Pelinka. You need to be right. Like, Rob needs to be right in his evaluations because, as we've talked about before, whatever can kicking down the road, whatever stalling, platitudes, whatever, there was a different context for all of that before, which was they were in the LeBron AD era, which they clearly stopped believing in and also did not have the stones to just move on from it. I don't agree with that approach, but the point being, things have now changed. You have Luka to build around. You have a long runway, which means beyond no more can kicking, there's no more being wrong about blank. You got to nail the overwhelming majority of the decisions. One last thing, though, in terms of framing this, because I mentioned before, there's always the opportunity from the player's perspective, the one that's on the buyout, in this case, Sochan. If you look at the Knicks rotation and the guys that are currently in it, Jalen Brunson, Cat, Josh Hart, Miles Bridges, OG Anunoby, Jose Alvarado, who was trade deadline acquisition, Landry Shamet, Mitchell Robinson. There are fewer guys that I think are more like Jeremy Sochan, and 2 of the guys that are similar in terms of certain things that they do, Josh Hart and OG Anunoby, they're hurt a lot. So there's basically 8 guys in the rotation, 2 of which get hurt a lot. A guy like Landry Shamet can't do the things that you primarily want from Sochan defense, and Jose Alvarado.
And size. I mean, Shamet's much smaller.
Right. Size. He can't defend, period, but he's also smaller. Jose Alvarado can be a pesky defender, but he's also, again, much smaller than Sochan.
Yeah,
there's certain matchups. Then you look at the Lakers, though, starting 5, LeBron, Reeves, Luka, Ayton, Marcus Smart, Jake LaRavia. I think Sochan may be better in certain defensive matchups than LaRavia, but I think LaRavia is a better overall player or can do more things better than Sochan. Vando is like a slightly less offensively polished version of Sochan, but they're very similar players. Luke Kennard is the complete opposite player, and if you're looking for certain things that Kennard provides, Sochan can't. Rui obviously is a completely different player than Jeremy Sochan. So I think you can look at this objectively and also just say the Lakers rotation versus the Knicks rotation, or maybe other rotations around the league. There's more opportunity for Sochan or buyout candidate X. And that stuff always has to be considered in trying to figure out whether or not Rob made a mistake. I think the real decision on Rob making a mistake or not is going to be next season. If Buffkin's on this team, how does he look?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, maybe there's an opportunity for Buffkin to contribute this year. I think I'm probably a little more open to the idea that there's, I think Sochan could have found a regular niche in this rotation.
I'm not saying he couldn't have. I'm saying I think I think,
but I agree. I was going to say, I agree with you that it's probably a cleaner path to playing time with the Knicks than it is with the Lakers. Anyway, we'll see how the rest of the buyout market goes and all kinds of other stuff. Lakers obviously playing tonight to round out the quote unquote first half of the season. The pre-All-Star break section will be back after the game to break everything down. What is hopefully a Lakers victory. Lock on Lakers on YouTube is where you can hang out with over 36,000 subscribers. We'll see everyone after the game.